The history of Rome is the history of the world. At its height, one single civilization controlled the lives of 70 million people. From the frozen shores of Britain to the scorching deserts of Mesopotamia, every road, every law, and every language we speak today carries its fingerprint. But Rome did not begin as an empire. It began as a myth, a murder, and a she-wolf. As legend has it, twin brothers Romulus and Remus were abandoned at birth, placed in a basket, and left to die on the banks of the Tiber River. A she-wolf discovered them. She nursed them back to life. When the brothers grew into men, they returned to found a city on the very hills where the wolf had saved them. But both brothers wanted the city named after themselves. The argument turned violent. Romulus struck the final blow and killed his own twin brother. And on those 7 hills above the Tiber, in 753 BCE, Rome was born, baptized in blood before it ever built a single wall. For the next 2 centuries, Rome was ruled by kings, until the people had enough. In 509 BCE, the Romans expelled their last tyrant king, Tarquinius Superbus, and declared themselves a republic. Power would no longer belong to one man. Instead, 2 elected consuls would govern together, each with the power to veto the other. The Senate would advise, the people would vote. Citizens debated in open forums. Laws were carved in stone for all to see. It was a radical experiment in human governance, and for a time, it worked magnificently.
But republics need enemies to grow strong, and Rome found its greatest one in Carthage. The 2 most powerful civilizations in the Mediterranean world collided in the Punic Wars, 3 brutal conflicts spanning over a century. Carthaginian general Hannibal crossed the Alps with war elephants and marched directly into the heart of Italy. He crushed Roman army after Roman army. At the Battle of Cannae in 216 BCE, he surrounded and annihilated 70,000 Roman soldiers in a single afternoon. Rome was on its knees. Citizens whispered that the end had come. But yet, Rome did not fall. Roman general Scipio Africanus took the war directly to Carthage itself, defeating Hannibal at the Battle of Zama in 202 BCE. By 146 BCE, Carthage was burned to ash. Rome salted the earth where it once stood, ensuring nothing would ever grow there again. There was no longer any question. The Mediterranean belonged to Rome. With no enemy left to fear abroad, Rome began to fear itself at home. The Republic was fracturing from within. Generals were accumulating dangerous amounts of power. Senators were drowning in corruption. And then came Julius Caesar, a military genius who conquered all of Gaul in 8 brutal years. A man so beloved by his soldiers, they would march with him into hell without hesitation. The Senate grew terrified of his popularity and demanded he disband his army and return to Rome as a private citizen. Caesar refused. In 49 BCE, he crossed the Rubicon River with his legions, an act of treason that ignited a civil war that tore Rome apart. He won. Rome declared him dictator for life. The crowds chanted his name in every street. And then, on the Ides of March, 44 BCE, 23 senators surrounded Julius Caesar inside the theater of Pompey and stabbed him 23 times.
The assassination plunged Rome into another decade of chaos. Factions tore at each other for supreme control. But from the wreckage rose one man. Octavian, Caesar's 18-year-old adopted son, was underestimated by everyone. He was methodical where others were reckless, patient where others rushed, and one by one, he eliminated every rival. In 27 BCE, the Senate declared him Augustus, the first emperor of Rome. He was careful never to call himself king. Romans despised kings. Instead, he called himself simply first citizen. But make no mistake, Rome was now an empire, and Augustus would rule it for 40 years, building something so powerful the world would spend 2,000 years trying to imitate it. Under Augustus and the emperors who followed, Rome entered its golden age, the Pax Romana.
200 years of relative peace and unimaginable prosperity across the known world. 40,000 miles of roads connected every corner of the empire. Aqueducts carried fresh water into every city. Roman law governed 70 million people across 3 continents. The Colosseum rose from the ground of Rome, capable of heating 50,000 spectators. The Pantheon was engineered so perfectly, its dome still stands unreinforced to this day. And in a small Roman province called Judea, a man named Jesus Christ was born, preached, and died on a Roman cross. His followers would soon transform the empire forever. Under Emperor Trajan, Rome reached its absolute greatest extent, from the cold moors of modern-day Britain to the sun-baked plains of modern-day Iraq. No empire in the Western world had ever stretched this far. But size is a weakness disguised as strength. The longer the border, the harder it becomes to defend what lies within it. Then came the crisis of the 3rd century. In just 50 years, Rome cycled through 50 different emperors. Most were assassinated. The economy collapsed. Devastating plagues swept through the cities, killing millions. Germanic tribes crossed the frozen Rhine and raided deep into Roman territory. The empire that had seemed immortal was rotting from within.
Into this darkness stepped Constantine the Great, a brilliant military commander who reunited the fractured empire, and then made a decision that would echo through 1,000 years of history. Before the Battle of Milvian Bridge in 312 CE, Constantine claimed he saw a vision of the Christian cross burning in the sky. In this sign, conquer. He painted the symbol on his soldiers' shields. He won the battle. He won the empire. And Christianity, once a persecuted minority, thrown to lions in the very Colosseum Rome had built, became the official religion of the empire. The world would never be the same. But even Constantine could not hold everything together forever. In 395 CE, Emperor Theodosius the Great died and split the empire between his 2 sons. Arcadius took the east. Honorius took the west. It seemed like a practical administrative solution. It was a death sentence for 1/2 of the world. The Western Empire was bleeding from every wound. Germanic tribes hammered relentlessly at every border. The Visigoths sacked Rome itself in 410 CE, the first foreign army to walk those streets in 800 years. The shock reverberated across the entire world. St. Jerome wrote from his monastery, the city which had taken the whole world was itself taken. Then came Attila the Hun from the east, the scourge of God, leaving a trail of ash across Europe.
But Rome did not die entirely. In the east, Constantinople survived. The Eastern Roman Empire, which history remembers as the Byzantine Empire, carried the torch of Rome for nearly another 1,000 years. It preserved Roman law, Roman culture, and Roman art, passing them carefully through the darkness of the medieval world like a flame handed between generations. Constantinople finally fell in 1453 when Ottoman Sultan Mehmed II breached its ancient walls after a 53-day siege. The last Roman emperor, Constantine VII, tore off his royal regalia and died fighting in the streets alongside his soldiers. The flame went out. And yet Rome never truly died. Every democracy on earth carries its fingerprint. Every legal system in the Western world traces its roots directly to Roman law. The languages of Italy, France, Spain, Portugal, and Romania all descended from Latin. The Catholic Church modeled its entire structure on the Roman Empire, the Pope sitting where the emperor once ruled. The word emperor itself comes from the Latin imperator. And the dream of Rome, one civilization, one law, one world united under a single power, never stopped haunting those who came after. Charlemagne claimed it. Napoleon claimed it. Every great empire that rose in Europe looked back at Rome and said, that is what we are trying to become. Rome began with a murder on a riverbank. It ended with a forgotten boy emperor no one remembers. And in between, it gave the world everything.